Man, we are back. What is going on, man? Shout out to everybody out there at the Corporate Plantation. David, No Compromise, Georgia in the building. My brother James Youngblood, Texas is definitely in the building. Shout out to the homegirl Shawnee, all the way in Philly. Shout out to the homegirl Erica, all the way in Florida, aka Florida. Shout out to everybody in Vegas, all my siblings, everybody in Vegas, Angelo, Tasha, everybody that's out there. If I'm blanking, I had to get on this, man. The wrong move. And we gonna explore it. We're gonna get into a little bit about your boy LeBron James and what I feel like maybe he just needs to make better moves. Let's get it. Man. I am drinking some moringa tea. Man, I've been drinking hella tea. But incorporating some new herbs and, shit like that. This moringa tea is cold, though. It's good. It's good. It does what it's supposed to do. Oh, man. Like I said again, shout out to everybody. If I forgot, I've been watching and having conversations with different people about LeBron James. And let me just break this down real quick. Real quick. Y'all often hear me talk about the Corporate Plantation all the time. Y'all always hear me talk about it. The Corporate Plantation, how you act at the Corporate Plantation. When you worked at the Corporate Plantation, as long as people in my family and as long as I've worked at it, you just see certain things. And I got love for LeBron, and I'm very happy that he's successful. But over his tenure in the NBA, which is another blatant Corporate Plantation, you've seen his ideological construct kind of shift and change, and that's what it's supposed to do. But sometimes I just feel like who's ever in his corner telling him to do certain things, like for instance, I can't tell a person what they should and what they shouldn't do, but you are the most public figure in the NBA, and you're pretty famous, and you're the face of the league. And I feel like there's just certain things that maybe he needs a counsel to kind of just like, look, bro, don't just make those moves, whatever. I'm not saying he has a lot of yes men around him, but sometimes I just kind of be like, that going and kind of approaching Stephen A. Smith, very emotional, lacking tact, couth, self-preservation, and intrinsic value in who you are. I believe he was upset at Stephen A. Smith because Stephen A. Smith, a lot of times, he has a lot of talking points of the dominant society when it comes to black athletes and so on and so on and so on. We know that. But a lot of times, when you really remove all the antics from Stephen A. Smith, he don't be lying about a lot of stuff pertaining to basketball. So when Stephen A. Smith was criticizing Bronny's a grown man in the NBA. He's not in high school. He's in the NBA. And for you to come out and say that he's better than a lot of players that have busted their ass to get there, wrong move. Second, you got a team to sign you and your son, but you, in my personal opinion, just told everybody that you and your son are the world's greatest slaves. You don't own that team. Yeah, you got him a job where you work. So that's not impressive. And I think that's, to me, something that we all got to look at. The reason why I say what I say is because, do you want your kids to be greater than you, or do you want them to be just as simplistic as you? Because you're more simplistic than your children. than the next generation. You know, that's just my personal opinion. You know what I mean? Some dominant society people, you know, they want their kids to do okay. Some dominant society people don't want their kids to do okay. That's in every racial group. But with us in particular, being foundational Black Americans, I feel like sometimes we just got to take a better look at things. For an example, another example, you got the Knuckleheads podcast with Darius Miles and Quentin Richardson, which they were pretty much the first people out of the gate with a podcast. It was them first, before all the smoke, before everybody else. It was Q Richardson and Darius Miles. You're going to look up how long they've been doing it, because I started watching them first. Now you have all these other podcasts. I like 520 with Jeff Teague. That's a good podcast. They kind of keep it a buck, you know, without kind of like causing no drama. Right? So you have them. You have all the smoke. You have all these people, but your first podcast, LeBron, is with JJ Redick, and then he becomes your basketball coach. I just, that's very contrived and too much acting. You've been around that community so long. I think you think those moves, like, we don't see it. That's corny to me. If you want the man to be the coach, you say you want the man to be the coach. Don't do a podcast and play all these games. You've been around. That's what they do to us at the Core Plantation all day, every day. And it was a lot of people champion LeBron. Yeah, you should get his kid. Then they up there comparing him to Ken Griffey Jr. Bronny is nowhere near Ken Griffey Jr. because Ken Griffey Jr. was better than his father. And Bronny's not better than his father. So that was a terrible comparison. It was very much Hollywood-like. And then when all this dust and smoke was settled, I felt like the league has catered to the Los Angeles Lakers organization. And is it because of the dominant society coach that they have? Because I don't believe, first of all, in my personal opinion, JJ Redick was a bum. He wasn't a great basketball player. He wasn't athletic. And he was out there primarily a lot of the times because of the color of his skin. Bring me some highlights where he was just clutch in the fourth quarter. No, he wasn't. A lot of these players aren't. But I noticed they're force-feeding a narrative. And the reason why I'm saying that, my bad, y'all. The reason why I'm saying that is because, you know, like I said, when I went to the mall, I just happened to go to the mall and I went in a couple of shoe stores. I said, I don't see any LeBron nowhere. I don't see no pictures of LeBron. You know what I saw, you guys? Exactly what Stephen A. Smith was saying. MJ. Foot Locker, MJ got the whole section. I mean, the whole section. Every store I went in, it was nothing but Jordans. When you go into, is it Nike Town in the Forum shops at Caesar's Palace? I know when I went in there, everybody else had a little carved out section, and Jordan had the biggest section. And this man had been out of the league damn near 30 years. So it's like, I see that they're pushing the narrative, and I get it. He's the face, but some of the moves that he makes, a lot of people didn't like Jordan. When Jordan said, well, Republicans buy my shoes too. Yeah, we didn't like that at the time because we felt like, damn. But the one thing I can say about Michael Jeffrey Jordan is Ahmad Rashad was his main man. That's all I'm going to say about that. NBA inside stuff with Ahmad Rashad. Ahmad Rashad was getting those exclusives with Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan wasn't going over Ahmad Rashad and going to the dominant society a lot of the times. I just never saw that. And if he did, maybe he did. Maybe I'm wrong. But I felt like with all those podcasts by foundational Black American players who are podcasting, of all podcasts, you do a podcast with JJ Redick. And then the second podcast, you do it with Steve Nash. Steve Nash was okay. He shouldn't have got those MVPs that he got. And he never won a goddamn thing. He sat with two motherfuckers that ain't won shit. And I'm like, what? What are you doing? And then you don't want nobody to say anything or criticize your son? Well, you shouldn't have said he was better than half of the players in the NBA. I get it, that's your son, but this is a business. You don't own this business. You don't own the Associated Press. So if you don't like what they say, just ignore it and keep it moving. But I think there's a lackluster of intrinsic value. And this is what foundational Black Americans, we got to understand, we are it. I'm not saying don't partner up with other racial groups. I'm not saying any of that. But I'm like, damn, you got Quentin Richardson. You got Get It Out the Mud with Zebo and TA. You got 520, Club 520 with Jeff Teague and them. You got All the Smoke with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson. You got all these prominent, very good podcasts. You got Byron Scott. You got all these, but you want to do it with Steve Nash. That's where I have an issue. Because now, are you trolling? What are you doing? And are you upset because people still deem MJ the GOAT? Because he could act like he's not upset, but I personally agree with Stephen A. Smith when he said, are you just upset because you're not my GOAT? Well, you're not. You're not better than Michael Jeffrey Jordan. And I believe sometimes people will pout, be frustrated, upset, angry, because they think the dominant society really loves them. And what I didn't like about the Stephen A. Smith thing is, why don't you go after all them other reporters? Them reporters been shitting on you since you left Cleveland. You ain't singled them out or went up to them, but you couldn't wait to go and run up on Stephen A. Like, I just thought that was, you got to keep your composure, and two, you're just kind of letting us know, like, yeah, you've been around them too long. Because that's a conversation you and Stephen A. need to have behind closed doors. We should have never known. And y'all could have cleared that up. But for you to do that, I just was like, you've been around them people too long. You just been around them people too long. You just really have in a lot of ways. Me personally, people were like, oh, well, if I could do it for my son, nigga, you're not LeBron. And that will never happen. You're never going to be able to walk on a job. If you're a regular person, you're never going to be able to walk on a job and get your son a job there. That's just not how it works. You're not going to force them into hiring your son. That's imaginary. And most, I would say the majority of foundational Black Americans, we know that's not true. And we sit up there and watch the dominant society do that at the core plantation all day, every day. So I wasn't cheering that on. I thought that was blasphemous, and I thought it was Hollywood. And I feel like even in what that's I don't even watch the NBA like that. James Youngblood, David No Comment. I don't watch the NBA like that. You're like, why you don't watch the NBA? It's boring. It's a 3-point shooting contest. They're not teaching kids any fundamentals. They're paying the players too much money. Why are we worried about all the baby mothers that Anthony Edwards have? If Anthony Edwards wants to have 30 baby mamas, let him go ahead and do that. Man, it's like sometimes we are focusing on stuff. That's why I say, you know what? These players are making money. I ain't got time to be sitting up here worried about who won or who lost and all that. If I can catch a basketball game, fine. If I don't, not a big deal. I'm not wasting my time and going out of my way to watch the NBA when you clearly can see they're trying to be like baseball and replace all the FBA players with non-foundational Black Americans and Europeans. That's what they're trying to do. But they can't be the face of the league because they don't have the longevity that foundational Black Americans have. The Kobe's, the Jordans, the Magics. You know what I mean? We got longevity. And I just think a lot of the times we be around the dominant society so long, we think we make decisions based off being around them. And I get it, because you don't want to go back to being broke, but there's certain things you could have went on Matt Barnes and them podcasts or 520. You could have went on. You know that would uplift their thing. But you didn't. You sat down with Steve Nash, who didn't win anything with MVP. He didn't win a championship at all. Never. Never. Ever, ever, ever. But you want to go sit down with him? Come on, LeBron. We know what you're doing, dog. Come on, man. You've been around them people way too long. Way too long. You would have been better off just starting a podcast and having your son on and then inviting your own guests. But make sure you incorporate some FBA. Like, damn, dog. FBA lineage is the reason why you are the way you are. You know what I mean? And it's like, it ain't about forgetting where you came from, but it's more about I want people to learn from this. That's how people act at the corporate plantation, like him. We've all went through it. We're trying to prove that we the best worker and we're not a lazy black worker and all this other stuff. And then, by the time you get to 17, 18, 19 years, you should be like, I don't give a fuck what these people think. I shouldn't even be having to work as hard as I'm working after my people built this country for free without repayment. Then you had the Muhammad Ali book acting like you actually reading the book. Ain't read not a damn word in the damn book. Had that for a prop. Because if you're really reading these books, it wouldn't come out in what you say. It would come out in what you do. If you're really reading them. Let me tell you, before I started reading, oh my God. I look at myself and I said, man, I was a Sambo. What the fuck was I thinking? Working hard. You don't know. Working hard. I'm going to just work and I'm going to prove to them I'm a hard worker. Come in early and leave late and all this other shit, right? But once you read Black Labor, White Wealth by Dr. Claude Anderson and hear him say the willingest ass carries the load, you're going to stop being like that. Once you read Powernomics by Dr. Claude Anderson, once you read the ISIS papers by Dr. Francis Grace Welsing, oh my God. And once you read the United Independent Compensatory Counter-Racist Code of Ethics by Neely Fuller Jr., I suggest you get the 2016 version because that's the revised version. He's got another one I think he wrote in 1985. David could probably, or James Youngblood could probably tell me, or Tasha, one of them could probably tell me when he wrote it. But he wrote two versions. I got the 2016 one. Once you read that, you know for a fact what it is. You know what it is. Like, man, what the fuck you doing? You're infantile in this system of racism and white supremacy. You're a victim. And I'm not saying that LeBron James is, at certain points not trying to establish a system of justice. But what I'm saying is, I just don't think that was a good move going on a podcast with JJ Redick and now he's your coach. And then going on a Steve Nash podcast or doing a podcast with him. I just thought that was fugazi. I thought that was very contrived. And I'm just kind of looking at LeBron like, you really been around these motherfuckers way too long. And we thought Kobe been around him way too long. Man, you start hearing these interviews and seeing how Kobe was going in on those non-foundational Black Americans like Jeremy Lin. Oh, man, I got so much admiration and respect for Kobe after that. Man, thank God for Kobe and Michael Jordan. Because you let Steve Kerr and all these people tell that they were just great basketball players. Nigga, y'all were not. You were an understudy. That's why Jordan went upside your head in the basketball practice, Steve Kerr. Because you up here running your mouth like you won those championships. So it's like, I feel like the time is changing. And look, let me tell you something. When the dominant society embraces a foundational Black American, look at the whole picture. Because normally they're not going to embrace you unless you're going to act a certain way, kowtow, bend the knee, and ostracize people who probably shouldn't be ostracized. I really felt like he could have done a podcast with one of them FBA brothers that had their own podcast out. You did not have to do that with JJ Redick. I think JJ Redick is a bullshit motherfucker to me. He just reminds me of one of those typical dominant society people who will sit back and allow and watch two Black people to get into it and just be cowardly and then give you the Kanye shrug like, I don't know what's going on. That's what he reminds me of. And when you got that read on people, you can't let it go. And that's what he reminds me. I've worked around plenty of white folks like that. And they embrace being the fucking savior and playing the white knight syndrome. Like, that's what they needed was him. No, the league is trash, garbage, and don't nobody play fucking defense. That's why they let go of Mike Malone. Because, nigga, teams are not playing defense. Because they don't care. Because they know it's entertainment and the jig is up. But need I remind you, when you were at the corporate plantation, you have to understand, it is not yours. You do not own it. And LeBron James does not own the Lakers. And if they lose, I'm very interested to see how this is going to pan out. Because, every time he lose, he don't accept the defeat. He get the whine and talk about he going to retire. That's what I mean. That's why I just be like, dog, you guys are a privileged family. I'm not saying that Michael Jordan's kids didn't sit with Phil Knight, but when I seen his kids sitting with Phil Knight, I just was like, what's wrong with this picture, Warren? Phil Knight worth $60 billion and LeBron James worth $1 billion and Jordan worth $3 billion. That's $5.5 billion. This man worth $60 billion. But y'all the ones out there running around doing slave labor. That's what I see. Just you're a high paid slave, and that's fine. But need I digress? I'm just saying. Kobe played 20 years. Unfortunately, he passed away. This nigga done paid 20 years. So you got to pay 20 years to be a billionaire? These people are already billionaires before you were born. But you got to play 20 years to be a billionaire. 20. And then you want your son to, I got $1 billion so you can play. No. Why don't you send him to school so he could be an extension of Clutch Sports? Why does he need to play basketball? Y'all didn't watch Dame Dash podcast when he was on Breakfast Club? What if your kids aren't as strong as you? That's why you hustle for your last name, not your first. Go buy a basketball team. And I know a lot of this lobbying is so he can own a team. But let me tell you something. Money talks, bullshit walks. And people don't know that the negotiations is with Red Bull. Either Red Bull or Rockstar. And they got $10 billion. So you know where the team gonna go. This is supposed to be the expansion team in Vegas. See, he's playing this role like they always have us play because he thinks you're gonna own a team. And even if you own the team, trust me, they're gonna have their hands all over that bullshit. There's always something, because let me tell you, at the end of the day, they are not trying to replace the system of racism, white supremacy, and establish a system of justice. They're not. They are the masters of confusion. So, in LeBron, you know exactly what you're doing. And dog, it ain't even worth it. You already up a Billy. You don't need to do any of that contrived ass behavior. If you want what's name to be the coach, just be like, look, I just want somebody to get the job done. You ain't got to be in there doing no podcasts and acting. He's a great actor. That's why he's in Hollywood. Man, you are a great actor to the point where it's almost cringe worthy. Like, ugh, Jesus. I just can't. That's why you can tell a lot of NBA players, they don't be around him. You can tell. Fake. You too fake and phony. You've been around these people way too long. I'm not saying you're supposed to be real and have everybody around you, but some of the shit I see, especially when I saw Rich Paul doing a whole press junket about why Jordan is the GOAT and LeBron's the GOAT. I just went to 3 shoe stores, y'all, and saw nothing but Michael Jordan memorabilia in there. I mean, they got pictures of him in the 80s. I said, this is why they're pushing this narrative. When have y'all ever heard of any kids standing in a line all day to get some LeBron James? No. They're standing in line all day to get Michael Jordan. Don't let these dominant society people, LeBron, hype you up to make you feel like you the king of the hill. You better than the nigga that is the reason why you're getting paid the money. You shouldn't even be trying to jockey for that position. You should be like, man, look, MJ's my GOAT. I ain't trying to be the GOAT. I'm trying to empower other people so they can make better decisions. They want all that because they can't stand Michael Jordan. Y'all think they love Michael Jordan? No, they love the money Michael Jordan brings in. That's why they don't really say nothing about him. And they know how important he is to the league. And he is to the culture. But don't think that they love Michael Jordan. Stop. If they could find somebody to replace that nigga, they would replace him with a heartbeat. And you would never see any Jordans again. But they can't. This has been going on since the 80s, y'all. That's why I'm like, LeBron, why are you allowing these dominant society people to hype you up, to have you thinking that you have a greater impact on the league than Michael Jordan? You're never going to have that. You're boxing with God. Don't allow these, because that's what the dominant society do. They push another nigga out there to kind of like discredit another person. No, but you notice we can't do that in their society. You can never go up to a white tennis player and say they're better than John McEnroe. They're just not going to agree. They're not going to say that. And they're not going to get off cold. They're just not going to do it. But they always do it with us. And then with us, we got to understand and know our place. Know your place. Everybody talking about, oh, Kobe, oh, Kobe. I ain't heard this nigga or any nigga mention Kobe since he been dead. He's not even in the GOAT status anymore. How's he not in the GOAT status? Oh, because he's dead? He was retired before he died. He should still be up there. But we're putting on him because you know what? Oh, well, he's dead now. We can't make no money off of Kobe. Don't let these people use you. The willingest ass carries the load. Go look up LeBron. Look up all the stuff he's been doing. I'm done. Peace.